14 years ago, Bali's most handsome prince, Tjok Gus, married a commoner, the famous Indonesian actress Happy Salma. Her Muslim family objected to Happy marrying a Hindu prince or not. As it turned out, the young prince repeated the fate of his father, who married an ordinary Australian woman, and their life was far from fabulous. But how did the family life of a poor prince and a rich actress who paid for a lavish wedding for 2,500 guests? Were they able to hold their marriage together despite cultural and financial differences? Watch the full video to find out. So, let's get started. Bali is known as a resort island, but not everyone knows that it was once home to several kingdoms. One of them is Ubud, and the monarch of this tropical paradise bears the title of Great God. Despite this lofty title, the royal families are not rich at all. This is because they are not allowed to collect taxes from their subjects. The population of the monarchy is around 200,000, most of whom work in the tourist industry. To make ends meet, the royal family is also involved in the tourism business, in particular owning a chain of restaurants. This explains why Prince Tjok Gus was used to working from an early age. At a young age, he even worked part-time as a gardener and waiter. To give him and his other two children a good education, the prince's parents moved to Sydney for a while. It was here that Tjok Gus completed his schooling, went to university, and acquired a strong Australian accent. It was also there that he became interested in surfing. It was through this hobby that he met the love of his life. It happened in the summer of 2010 when the prince's family returned to Bali from Australia. At the time, Tjok Gus was 30 years old and working in the family business. One weekend, the prince decided to revisit his old hobby and went surfing on the south coast of the island. After riding the waves, the prince's friend invited him to a party. One of the girls seemed a little familiar to Tjok Gus. When he looked at her again, he realized it was fate. In his own words, he immediately fell in love with Happy, who turned out to be an actress. At the time, the 30-year-old woman had already starred in a dozen Indonesian films, so the prince thought he had seen her somewhere. A whirlwind romance ensued. After a few months, Tjok Gus and Happy knew they wanted to join their lives forever. With sinking hearts, they announced their decision to the royal family and the girl's parents. The reaction of their parents was unexpected. Happy's Muslim family was not very happy that their daughter was marrying a Hindu, even though he was a prince. Even more unexpected was the reaction of the prince's parents, Tjok and Asri. At first they looked at each other in confusion, and then they laughed heartily. There was a simple explanation for such an unusual reaction. Their own love story is strikingly similar to the romance between the young prince and the actress Happy Salma. Back in 1977, Prince's mother's name was not Asri, but Jane. She worked as a lowly kindergarten teacher in Sydney and saved some money for a vacation on the exotic island of Bali. At the hotel where she was staying, there was a children's theater group led by a handsome young man. Jane was interested in how children were raised in Bali, so she met the man to discuss professional matters. The relationship quickly turned into a romance, and Jane realized she was madly in love. She had no idea that she had begun a relationship with the prince of the kingdom, who had remained incognito for the first time after meeting her. Then Jane's vacation ended and she returned to Sydney. But love proved stronger than distance. For 6 months, the young people exchanged touching letters. Later, Jane decided to come back to Bali, and Prince Tjok offered her his hand and his heart. After a beautiful wedding, the simple teacher from Sydney became a Balinese princess. According to Balinese tradition, she was given the local name Asri, which means perfect. It's hard to believe, but 32 years later, history repeated itself. The only difference was that Tjok Gus's father decided to marry a foreigner, while in 2010 the prince chose a fellow Indonesian as his wife. Of course, the royal couple of the island of Bali gladly blessed the marriage. But the many aristocratic relatives were not happy. Not only is the great god marrying a commoner, but she is of a different faith. In fact, the dominant religion in Bali is Hinduism. The predominant religion on the island of Java, where Happy was born, is Islam. Accordingly, the girl was raised in a Muslim environment. This fact did not please Tjok Gus relatives. However, he was determined to get married and overcame all arguments against it. To allay the discontent of the Balinese aristocracy, it was decided to hold the wedding according to the canons of Hinduism and as lavishly as possible. 2,500 people were invited to the wedding ceremony, and all the rites were performed according to Hindu traditions. Interestingly, the cost of the lavish ceremonies fell mostly on the bride's shoulders. Happy Salma turned out to be much richer than the royal family. By the age of 30, she had become a famous actress, and her fees were unusually high. According to Indonesian press reports, the bride spent billions of Indonesian rupiahs, or several $100,000 on the wedding. According to Happy, she has no regrets. Every girl dreams of such a lavish wedding. A 3 kilograms gold headdress was made for the bride, which she wore in a procession between local temples. Prince Tjok Gus jokingly whipped her with branches, and at the end Happy sat on a coconut. This is a fertility ceremony in Bali. According to local belief, a woman who goes through it will have many children. Apparently, the ceremony worked. 3 years after the wedding, she gave birth to a baby girl named Sri Kanandari. In 2018, a second child was born, a boy named Inggora Raidaru. They now study in school and please their parents with good grades. After the wedding, Happy moved to Bali, where she and the prince started a family business. The couple owns several restaurants in the resort town of Seminyak, one of the most prestigious places on the island. As befits the head of the family, the business is mainly run by Tjok Gus. As for Happy, she did not stop acting in movies even after the birth of her children. In addition, the actress was awarded the Indonesian equivalent of the Oscars, the Citra Award for Best Supporting Actress. Today, Happy Salma is mainly engaged in directing films and television programs, writing scripts and books. Her husband is developing a chain of gourmet restaurants in Bali, where he has found his professional calling. But the most important thing for Tjok Gus and Happy is still their family. According to their own words, at first it was difficult for them to find a common language because of their different cultures. But they always put a good relationship first. As a result, Happy gradually fell in love with her husband's Hindu traditions, while Prince Tjok Gus began to understand Islam. As an aristocratic couple in the public eye, Happy and Tjok Gus try to be role models. When his wife goes on tour, the prince takes care of the children and the household. In return, Happy helps him with his business and tries to live up to her status. After all, she is no longer just a woman, but a great goddess. What do you think of this amazing royal family? Write in the comments. Put a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and see you soon.